Hello, my name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we're truly meaning when we talk allows us to convey and explain ourselves better to others. This is our first Cut for Time show. These are the insights we weren't able to fit into our hour-long show that we present on public TV every month. And because there's so much left over, we put it all together and, well, here it is. In this Cut for Time episode, we will be using footage we cut from our marriage and anger episodes. First, let's see what we cut out of the marriage episode, shall we?
Okay, guys, I figured it out. Okay. So guess what?
What?
And I'm not going to do the regular sort of intro that I usually do because I'm actually going to record it after the show because I have a script to record it from as opposed to sitting here.
Of course, why make it
improvising.
easier for yourself?
Well, he has to tout at least me
Of
as
course.
some kind of expert, you know.
Expert. Absolutely.
And I'm not granted that same.
Oh, you'll be in there.
I'm not an expert though.
Well, it doesn't matter. We're all novices to one degree or another. All right. So today, guess what? We're talking about... Today, guess what? We're talking about marriage. And, of course, marriage. I have my wife here with me, which should make a quite an interesting show. And I also have Therese Wilson, of course.
Your
No
excellent.
relation.
coming out to talk about marriage. When I went to high school, the first time we showered together, I'd never showered with a bunch of guys before, right? And this is, it was junior high. I think grade 7. No, it was high school. Anyway, grade 10. So the first time that I had showered with other boys, and I hopped into the shower and did my thing, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but whatever, And I went back into the locker room, and back then I had nice locks of hair. There was flowing hair, and.
I'm imagining you with hair.
Oh, okay.
Covering your bald head right now.
But so I did the most automatic thing of towel up, flip over the head, and then I'm walking around, right?
Like a girl.
Right? Oh my God. And the amount of teasing that I got from that, and I'm like totally clueless. I go, what? Right? What's the thing, right? There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing because it's a super efficient way of leaving the towel out of the way, getting the hair a little bit drier while I'm walking around and doing other things, right? Now, so we inevitably talk about the patriarchy and me being sort of, I would consider myself a girly guy, right? I was raised by women. And so I really have a unique perspective on hush up.
Oh, what?
Nice. So I've got that kind of perspective of having been raised in a female household, an all female household. Like my stepdad was rarely ever around and only stopped by pretty much to hang out with my mom for a few minutes, right? That's not necessarily true. Later on, he got a little bit more involved in my life, but I didn't really have any male figures to teach me how to pee on the seat. So I sat down when I peed. It's like it was just the most natural thing for me to do. Yeah. So and it made sense. It's like, oh, good. Then you don't have to clean all the stuff around the toilet. That's awesome, right?
Well, with me, toilet seats never been an issue with me because I have cats. I want to keep them out, from drinking out of the toilet. So it's a habit. I always put the lid down. So the seat's down.
The seats, if it was up to you, the seat would always be down, right? But if I'm standing and peeing, which I do every once in a while, I don't do it often, but when I'm in a hurry, if I don't put the seat back down and you're not looking in the middle of the night, that's the big thing, right? Is that you get a nice cold porcelain.
Never happened in our relationship, anyways.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Wait for it. Now I want to try it.
moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
Okay,
get up to toilet
enough
talk
of,
here.
enough of the toilet humor. And don't get me wrong, my first relationship wasn't what I would consider an absolute disaster, because it taught me, just like Trump is teaching us, what we don't want, right?
For
Right?
a lot
It's
of people, but
okay, but yeah, I know that's
but it's just the opposite for others, you know.
yeah, I know,
The
I
one, the
agree.
one thing that, since you mentioned it, the one thing that we now have to remember in the United States is that there were still 70 million people who did vote for him.
Yeah, I know.
So we
It
better
was
not start demonizing nearly half of our country.
yeah.
It's
I mean, it was people were expecting it not to be so close.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was shows, you
Yeah.
know, how many people support,
Yeah,
still support,
yeah.
will always support.
Well,
And yeah,
what MSNBC and CNN and others didn't ever put on air is that there were a lot of people who were, you know, they're not, you know, vilifying Biden. They are. A lot of people believe that Biden is a pedophile. A lot of people
yes.
believe that Biden, you know, is part of the same sex ring that the Clintons are. That a lot of
Yep.
people believe that.
Yep.
And that was very, very heavily in the background of this election that none of the liberal media addressed.
well, I mean, I think that
They did a little bit with some of the QAnon stuff. That came out a little bit, not like it should have.
But it was dismissed.
Yes.
They never said just how heavily fundamentalists and Republicans, as a general term, really believe these things and worry about these things. And after the election, there's someone I love very much said, just watch, Biden's going to take away all of our rights, and this will be the last time. She said, my children and my children's children will never be able to vote. They fully believe that this is the end of our democracy now with Biden.
well, and
So
of course, but
the liberal media never reported on any of their real fundamentalist worries.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Canada who feel the same way too.
I'm sure. I think that's one of the problems we have, is that we expect a marriage, every marriage, to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And marriages are, there can be some real markers that give you a clue that you're on a successful path, but every single marriage takes its own path.
What I'm going to do is I've got to go into the little boys' room, and
Now I have a visual.
and I will be back in a second. So talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back.
Okay.
What about that Drew weirdo? Oh my god.
Oh my God. We're gonna have to move to actually being in a marriage, not just getting into a marriage.
Right.
I don't think we're really in one yet, are we? Not really.
No. I know, I get where the whole work husband, work wife thing comes from, because when you work with, you know, someone a lot, and it's like, you do have a relationship of sorts. It's just, you know.
And of course, sometimes it's suppressed lust and all the other kind of things.
Yeah.
But it's just, if you're going to have relationships in general between male and female, have our modern culture has bastardized it, taken away the joy of just two people who are compatible working together very well and enjoy being with each other. I had so many people thinking I was such a flirt, but raised around 4 boys and all that kind of stuff. I just liked being around men. My husband liked being around women because he was raised with 3 women.
Yep.
And it's not flirting, it's just comfort.
Yeah, I've always been one of the guys. I've lost friends because their significant other saw me as a threat. And it's like, no. even
No,
if we had had a relationship at some point, or because that happens a lot with high school,
yeah,
and it's like, because we're not together now, it doesn't mean we're a threat. I'm friends with,
no,
you know,
no,
almost every guy I've ever gone out with, and it's like, no, we're not together now, so
no.
why would we?
And
I
that
don't know.
brings us to jealousy in marriage. I am not
Huge.
jealous of other women in my husband's life, and he's not jealous of other men in my life.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, we
Go
had
ahead.
an issue last year with one of our friends who lost her husband to cancer, and Drew was doing some favors and stuff, cleaning their house and everything when they were in Vancouver and stuff, and it got to be where she was getting pretty darn codependent, where he'd go over to counsel, and it's like, he promised to be home by a certain time, and like when my mom was visiting, and it's like, Drew, you're not even answering your phone, what the heck, stuff like that. But it added up over a while, and I told him, this is, she didn't like me to begin with,
Mm.
and just a lot of things that kind of just culminated over a number of years. The way she treated her daughter, I didn't like, and
Mm.
stuff like that. And I told Drew, it's like, I know you're helping her, and I know this is the shittiest time, but it's like, you're gonna have to stop, because this is interfering in our relationship.
Interfering
And
in your relationship and not really doing her any favor.
no, and of course she didn't
After a
see it
certain
that
point,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, of course she didn't see it that way. She saw it as, I forced him to not be her friend anymore, and it's like, that's not what I was doing.
Yeah.
Other people saw it, and once one of his other friends pointed out, yeah, this is not a good situation, then he realized, oh, okay, because I'm asking myself, am I overreacting? Am I being too territorial? But if it's causing issues between Drew and I don't care what it is, I have to protect that,
Or at least you,
because
or at the very least, you have to bring it into the conversation. Yes.
yeah, and of course she and I didn't really have a very good way of communicating that didn't turn out toxic,
Yeah. Yeah.
where there was a lot of misunderstanding, and she took what some of the stuff I was saying as being,
Well,
overly emotional,
yeah, yeah.
and then with her being in her state of grief, it was like she took everything as an attack, and I really did stop myself a number of times and go, okay, am I overreacting? Because I know she's coming from such a raw place right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a good situation. But that's probably the only time I've ever had to, well, other than a previous time with his ex-wife, when I had to put my foot down and say, I think you shouldn't talk to her anymore, because she'd verbally attack him, and he would be he'd shook for 2 weeks.
Oh.
He was so emotionally hurt by that, and it's like,
Well, and
yeah,
to clarify that, and because
From
I
your
have
point
to.
of view, anyway.
Well, no.
yeah,
To clarify that, what had happened is my former wife was fairly abusive to me, verbally, not necessarily physically, but
no,
verbally and
verbally,
emotionally.
yeah,
And I understood, like later, where it was all coming from, right? It was coming from, she's not being fulfilled, and we're pretty much taught a lot of the times, women are taught, if you're not getting what you want, you browbeat. That's what our parents taught us. We watched them do it. Not everybody did, but I know, I see the majority of people still holding to that form. Anyway, and I'm not giving excuses for her. That's just what she did. But she was really good at covering that stuff up, right? And so as we were moving along, I thought she was progressing, allowing things to be, and all of that stuff, because we were getting the divorce, and I was with Talia, and all of the stuff that was going on. She was, I truly believed that she was moving forward and just letting it go, and life was good, because that's the way that she was reacting. Now, Talia saw the signs that I didn't see, because I wanted to see what I wanted to see, right? And so we went to a counseling session with her for her daughter. And in between, when the counselor asked us both to leave, my former wife ended up like literally verbally like attacking me, and I had no armor on, none. Like I was like I was free and open and figuring things out and looking to communicate, and then all of a sudden she came out of it to me out of left field, and just started attacking me and telling me how horrible I was and what I was doing and all of those things, and that hit me at that time and created such because I have my own internal shames that I haven't dealt with. It just hit them, right? Just all at once, right there, just hit me in all of those places she knew that she can get through, and having no armor there was just that much easier. And I came out, and so Talia had to deal with me for the next 2 weeks, and I was absolutely literally shaking. I couldn't even talk to people for the next couple of weeks, just because I was so hurt. Everything was on the surface, and it was what Talia's describing is how that happened, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I got to change some batteries. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay.
Someone wasn't prepared.
Yeah. Because this is segueing into an important issue, important topic.
I know. It's like, okay, fine, hold that thought. Yeah, how long do we have to hold it while you change your batteries?
Yeah. Oh gosh. And so anyway, so far the cancer it's had a few little issues of after the chemotherapy, and I won't say everything's been perfect, but in comparison to the horror stories you hear,
yeah.
Oh wow, I am very grateful, and of course I have a power of 8. Who is it? Twyman? No. Anyway, one of the spiritual helpers has organized a power of 8 prayer session for 10 minutes every Sunday at 12:30. I can't tell you how many people in the neighborhood have said, "I will put you on our church prayer list." And so and my friend Hojung around in Korea, she's a very devout Catholic, and she's going to every St. Mary shrine she can get to and burning candles for me. And I know that we are, if I truly believe we are all one, then the vibration of oneness from all of these people thinking the same thing has to be helping.
Yeah. When I was a teenager and had my knee surgeries, and it was around the time I was getting out of going to church, and my great aunt, who was more of a grandmother to me than my own grandmother, very religious, but not in a pushy type of way. She's like, I think she asked, "Can I put you on our church's prayer list?" And I'm like, "Of course," because I knew that, any good energy is going to help, and I didn't care where it was coming from, and it obviously worked. I was always healing very fast after my surgeries. So, I mean, I nowadays equate it to good vibes. I'll take any good vibes I can get,
I agree.
Whatever form they come in.
Right.
Yeah.
I simply can't turn away, essentially, love.
Yeah, because that's all it is, really.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so guess what? I'm back.
Okay, so
great.
Are we recording again? Yes, we are.
Yeah. No, we were recording already. It's just it's my audio recorders.
Okay.
I ended up plugging them in because the batteries that I'm using seem to not last very long for some reason, but we'll figure it out.
Even my responses on site are very seldom especially long, because I just like to go right to my point as nicely as possible, but right to my point. Tell me my point.
Yeah. What's the bottom
Talk
line?
to me.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're thinking now. Now.
So, there's a couple of things that you guys just so often, and actually, I can't even remember which author was describing it, but if you've ever watched children when they're doing their playing, and they're playing adults, they automatically become serious. Their faces change. There's well now, and rather unfortunately, we've been indoctrinated into making our children grow up, and that dictation of grow up, suck it up, man up, whatever you want to do. Like, I mean, from my perspective, it was man up, but be serious, be all of these things. And I know that for me as a child, I was a very serious child too. I had to take responsibility for my life, and I also had to stop being a kid very, very early. And because of that, there was times in my life where I was exuberant like a child, right? That people would just shut you down. Like they took offense that you were being childish. And you weren't being childish, you were being childlike, you were being exuberant. And that exuberance was getting shut down all the time in me. And so having had a partner in my life that can play with me, and Talia and I play often, and we do word play and we do mind play, and I love that kind of play. It is a huge plus for our relationship that we connect on that level. Huge.
And of course, kitchen dances.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Dances and hitting each other on the butt with the towel.
Yeah, just impromptu dancing.
And it's not immature behavior. It is actually mature behavior. I think we lost it. I think that we misdefined maturity. I think that being okay with the fact that we are on some levels always going to be childlike is something that we miss. And I think something that relationships and marriages miss out on. I know that I'm being emphatic because I think that this is probably one of the most important points that we have, that in good relationships, you have that kind of play.
Well, that's kind of that brings us back to friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Your best friend, you will do that kind of thing with.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily your spouse, unfortunately, but your best friend is a well-rounded friendship most of the time.
So I'm going to,
because they might have started from childhood. But
that's true.
Right.
I'm going to try and sum up what we've talked about. Okay.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, really. But let's list some of those things that we think can help us create and maintain a great relationship with our spouses. And I know that means that we're being superior here and saying that we have really great relationships, but I think that we can agree.
This is what works. This is what works for us.
Yeah, I can agree at this point demonstrably that we are happier in our marriages than I've seen most people be. Right. So to sum up, dude. Yeah, I know. I'm speaking for all of us here as a patriarch. Anyway.
Great. Here he goes again.
No. He's the host.
Yeah. Oh, bullshit. Anyway. Yeah. I wasn't supposed to say that on air.
No, you're not. I have to bleep you.
Yeah, gonna have to bleep me.
Bleep off.
So one of the things, if I could give any advice to people out there about marriage and about interpersonal relationship, whether it's the commitment level of marriage that we're talking about, okay, which means that you have to first outline what your expectations are in regards to what the commitment is. Talia and I have 4. Talia, take it away.
Okay. Number 1, that we like each other. And that is what I mean by like is not, crap. I need to start again. Sorry. Number 1, we like each other. Don't confuse like with love. They are not the same thing. And I'll have Drew explain that in a second. 2, we love each other. Again, not the same as like. 3, try to be as honest as possible. And yes, I know that is difficult. Everyone tells little white lies. There's always some part of us that has to hide something. But try as hard as you can to be honest about everything. And yes, by everything, I do mean everything, even the scary stuff. Number 4, fidelity. I've told Drew many times he can do pretty much whatever he wants, but the minute he
Is unfaithful.
dips his
Stick.
quill in other ink, yeah, it's over. So
Yeah,
that's
started.
it.
Yeah, we
4 very
started
simple
out
things.
with those 4 expectations, just as sort of the field, the borders of where our relationship is. Now, we've made other commitments, like the commitment of, listen, we're going to stick with this, right?
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
we both agree that it's not working.
Yeah.
Right. We both got to agree that it's not working and we can't fix it. Then we're done. Which was those agreements. So we made the agreements. So if anybody's going towards doing that kind of commitment around marriage, first off, understand what commitment you're willing to do. And 2, make those agreements with your partner and make sure that you are both in harmony on those agreements and you follow them. The next thing that I would recommend anybody is, most people are really not that good about understanding how to communicate. First, people don't understand that even if somebody was raised next door to them and they've lived near them all their lives, the same words may mean something different to them because they were raised by different people. They were raised in possibly even a different religion, or even, and everybody's biochemistry is different. And so because we define words based on feelings, what we feel about one word, like love, a big important one, might be something completely different to that other person. Like Therese was saying, that love could mean money, or money means love to people, right? So we have those equations, and that may not work for me. I didn't get raised like that. So understanding communication is extremely important. And because most of us don't have the background that either Therese or me or even Talia has around, and did I just diminish you? I didn't mean to, right? I didn't mean to, or even Talia has, or even Talia has.
Go for it. I'm used to it by now. So
that we have in this area. I would recommend that if somebody was getting married, that they go through, like I said before, the 2 years of being able to live together, not having kids, make sure that you get past that romance stage, make sure that you're in a position of where you like the person that you're with, which is super, super important.
And that's obviously a general thing, because 9 weeks work just fine for me.
Yeah, well, and it depends on who you are. Like, I mean, Talia and I had a connection from before that we had already had a love connection there. Then it was just about, hey, this is what's going on in my life. Did you want to try this out? Because those were my words to her. Did you want to try this out? Come up here and try it out for a month and see if this works for us, right? See where we're going. Now, I'm abnormal when it comes to being able to form a relationship, because I'm very much aware of me and where I am, what I'm able to commit to, and all of that stuff.
That's not the only abnormal thing about you, but continue.
Yeah. Okay. And well, and I have to agree with you.
I guess our fifth expectation would be constant sarcasm,
Yeah, there we go.
because who doesn't need that in a
Well, play.
relationship?
That's constant sarcasm is play for us too, really.
Fine.
Yeah, play. Okay.
Whatever.
But I think that in the beginning, do that 2-year thing. And I mean, and of course it's variable. I'm not saying that you have to do it. It's just it's something that would suit you better if you haven't been as educated in these areas. And the next thing that I would say is, when you get together, because we are not good at really understanding communication and what communication is, go to a marriage counselor to start. This I can't reiterate this anymore. My experience is most.
I'm going to cut in.
Sure.
Be willing to go to a marriage counselor at the beginning.
Yeah.
Have that in your lexicon as a possibility. Because not everyone needs it.
Well, and absolutely. No, I'm overgeneralizing, because I see a lot of people having issues with communication.
Yeah, but you were saying it as though you were the authority on it.
Okay, yeah, and that's
well,
true.
That's how he likes to talk,
And that's exactly how I like to talk.
And that's why I softened it.
Okay, no, that's cool. I hear you. And so, but it is worth considering to do, because when you go to a counselor at the beginning, as opposed to near the end, you're not trying to fix anything. You're trying to create a foundation where you don't have to fix anything. And a counselor can help you start to understand each other's languages better, and not to form those hurtful judgments and interpretations, right? That can really undermine a relationship right at the very beginning. And the other thing that I recommend is learn how to play with each other. Find things that you can play with. I'm not talking about going out and playing badminton. I'm talking about being childlike with each other is really, really important. Yeah. Those are my major things. What do you got?
I'm going to take a little bit of exception to one of your agreements.
Sure.
And it's an agreement that works for you, and I won't say that it's wrong or anything. Mm-hmm. But the fidelity agreement. Mm-hmm. My experience with a whole lot of different people is fidelity is oftentimes it's just the circumstance presents itself, they're drunk or whatever, or they just something happens, it's a one-time thing. And if that's the case, then you examine the relationship. You say, what deficit in our relationship allowed this to happen? Fidelity isn't always a deal breaker if it's broken.
I agree.
The strength of the relationship, the foundation of the relationship, is not necessarily betrayed. It's wider than just don't cheat on me.
I think that you are correct. I think that it takes a certain kind of awareness in a relationship and a certain level of commitment to understand and to work through something like that. And so and
it's not always personal. It's not always about the spouse. Mm-hmm. It's about the person.
Well, I mean, it's always about the person.
But we think it's about us.
Yeah.
So what is it right now that is not functioning properly in you, that is making this relationship not function properly? Sometimes it means that is the end. Well, sometimes it means that you're discovering more about that other person, the hurt in them that makes them feel they have to be validated by this separate thing, and how can that person fill themselves to the point where they don't have to do that?
And
know,
I absolutely agree with you. I really do. And
Yeah, I
and
do
I know
too.
that for Talia and not that I would ever break that rule just because I way too many complications. If
well,
that,
I would
like
tell
that's just
them this
awful.
is going to cost you way too damn much.
Yeah, it's just I see the transaction there, and that's not worth it. But it also on a maturity level, when Talia and I really take a look at it when we made that agreement on our own maturity level, um,
Yeah.
to have to work through that trust, I also know that it would be the toughest thing that I would ever have to do to be able to work through that trust because I know my wounds there.
Yeah.
And so I think that for Talia and I, in that agreement, we consciously made that agreement exactly like
And
that.
that's an older person relationship.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about young people, I mean, the male mind in particular doesn't fully mature till 25, 26.
Yeah. Well, even if then.
Well, seriously, and if the mature mind, if the immature mind is being asked to do something it doesn't fully understand because the hormones
Mhm.
are driving you somewhere else, it's too, for me it was just too blanket a statement
No,
that
I agree.
Right,
And
right.
there's
But again,
always an
they were
exception to
just
any rule, right?
they were just our expectations.
oh yeah,
They
yeah,
don't work
Of
for
each other.
everybody,
Yeah.
and we're not
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and I, like
We
I
weren't
said, I
saying
get,
that.
like I
Yeah.
said, I get that it works for you and
Yeah.
Yeah,
your
yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
But
No,
it
there's
was,
other
I didn't want it
relationships
to
we've
sound
seen
like
that.
something that would have to be a universal
No,
deal
I
breaker.
I
Oh
hear
no, no,
you,
no,
and
no,
I love the
not at
clarification.
all,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, there's lots of relationships where they're open or
And
polyamorous,
it's an
or
agreement.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and fidelity wouldn't work or wouldn't apply, and it's like,
Right.
who are
Yeah.
we to begrudge that? It's like, whatever works for you. If fidelity is not
If
one
it's
of it,
not harm, if you're not
more
harming
power
each
to you.
other and
Yeah,
others,
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well,
Now,
but
no, we're not saying that to pass judgment. Not
that's
at all.
that's
This
with
is
any
just what
commitment.
works for us.
Given
Yeah.
the nature
What
of the
works for
show, I
us
just
isn't going to
wanted
work
that
for other people. We already
Yeah.
know that.
Given the
Yeah, it's
nature of
not
the
about.
show, I just wanted that qualified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
that's great.
this
Perfect.
isn't about passing
So,
judgment at all.
Okay,
Eh,
now I would say best friends, absolutely. I would say have an intention for your marriage.
mhm,
Where do
I
you want
like
to go
that.
with it?
mhm.
And I would say absolutely have fun in it. Have the best, have the fun you would have with your best friend, and of course, communication. Be willing to be. I won't even say be willing to be wrong, but don't have to be right all the time.
Mhm.
If you know what I mean.
I think that acceptance is a big thing. I think it's
Yeah.
acceptance as people as they are, as opposed to the idea of what they should be.
Well, acceptance of the fact that no one stays the same.
Hmm.
That my husband went outside of the house for 8 to 12 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week.
Hmm.
Something over there was going to influence him,
Hmm.
and change him. And he's going to bring that back to me. Revel in the changes, share them. I never, ever did two things. I never stopped him from talking about work when he got home, because that huge chunk of his life, I wanted to come back into the house so I know about it and I know about him. And I never made him choose between work and home,
Hmm.
work and me, because a man, his little hormone instincts have him working for me. So if I have him separate them, I have asked him to not be who he is.
Hmm.
And so it was, again, all about allowing my spouse to be who he is,
Hmm.
and loving. And of course that means he's allowing me,
Yeah.
you know,
Accepting.
and loving the growth, loving the newness that makes that makes the relationship new all the time. It's
Well,
great.
Well, and two, I think you brought up something that's really cool. Of my brain just farted, and now I can't remember what it was. Hmm.
Not the newness of the relationship.
No, there it is. But that was thanks for the trigger. Um, um,
You're welcome.
it's that relationships are not static; they don't remain the same. And I think that we get caught up sometimes in thinking that they should.
Well, that's the trade relationship.
Yeah.
I bought in for this. I didn't buy in for
For
growth.
this, yeah.
No.
Relationships are growing all the time, and I think that that's something that you have to take into account before you ever get married. This is going to grow and change. I'm going to be okay with that. And how can we be okay with that? Communication, all the things we've talked
And
about.
all the other things, yeah.
Well, you guys, it is going on to 3 hours.
Yeah, this might be a two-parter.
I assume that it is. We're at 2 hours 46 minutes, and that's out.
That's it.
Thank you, guys.
Oh,
This is
thank
gonna
you
be
so
real
much,
fun to
Therese. That
edit.
was
Oh
so
my
much fun.
gosh.
Oh yeah, this is going to be take a
This is
while.
gonna be insane. We're gonna have to make it 2 episodes.
Oh yeah,
But that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I'd rather do that and than cut anything out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems to me there should be less editing if you get to break it into two.
It doesn't
you
work that
still
way.
have to, yeah.
Yeah, that tells you how ignorant I am.
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah,
No, content-wise, we have a lot of stuff to work with, which is great. Which is great for splitting it into multiple episodes. It doesn't really make the editing job.
No, you got to cut out my coughing. You got to cut out the goofy. You
there's-
got to
Yep.
cut out.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, no. The
Yeah, then we
goofing,
have to
the
edit
goofing
for
we try and
and
keep
stuff.
in.
Yeah, look,
We
as
want to
much as we
show
can.
childlikeness.
Yeah.
Did you do something different with the background?
Me?
Drew,
No.
yeah, your background. Okay, because it looks like you have something a little bit different behind your head, so the bald isn't looking quite as.
Oh, I changed the lighting. Yeah, I just took down my whole room and redid it. So I redid all the lighting in here.
Okay.
So that's what you're getting is
Okay.
and I've reset the camera to some different settings as well. So you're getting a bunch of my new knowledge about the studio.
Mine is just a photo I took the other day on my phone.
Well, geez, it's 6:12. No wonder I'm drop dead hungry.
Yeah, you should go eat. It is 2 hours 50 minutes into this conversation. I think we're
Wow.
good.
Oh my
I
gosh,
gotta
that is
leave.
crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
I love you. See
Nice
you
to
later.
see you, Therese.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And next, this is what we cut out of our anger episode. Stay tuned.
Ironically, it got me angry while I was trying to.
I'm angry that you did that, making me report.
So-
Because I sure as heck don't remember what I said.
No, it doesn't matter. It's supposed to be like that. So yeah, you don't worry about that.
Okay, do your damn intro.
Why don't I just do my damn intro and then we'll get on with this. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. My name is Drew, and I'm here today talking with our special guest, Therese Wilson, and we're going to be talking about anger. So here we go. So, on a level of there I am. Okay, that's weird.
Who cares about you?
Who cares about me? Well, that's true. Like,
Trying
who
to provoke
does?
anger.
Who does care about me? No, I'm just wondering because I've got it on a dual monitor system, but it's not popping it out to the second monitor. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'll figure it out in post.
I distracted you.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
well, it's in regards to hiding the fear, and I mean, I don't want to sit here and tell everybody that you know, like when you're angry, you're hiding your fear or anything like that. Like,
No, there are so many levels to every emotion. And that's just part of it. And we're going to have an hour-long discussion, and surely we'll get into different areas of a lot of different things. So thanks for pointing it out, but there is no one response, no one reason for any of it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to clarify that the debate that you were talking about was between Joe Biden and Donald Trump just recently,
That's
um,
recent.
and that this is which is funny because this is actually going to be aired as the third episode, but we're talking about things that happened after all I've done all the other episodes, so it's weird. Anyway, but I wanted to explain that.
That's okay.
Um, Weakness is a huge issue for men. And I'm sure that it is for women in a slightly different way, but for guys, it's like we don't want to be, called a pussy, right? I mean that is our biggest swear word as men. It's like, no, you don't want to be that. Now, when we're talking about anger, I'm kind of disjointed today. I don't know why, but
Don't worry about it.
um, so let's see. Let me
Well,
regather this.
um,
Yeah.
and let me just go into something
Sure.
while you regroup a little bit. I saw something by Matt Kahn a while back, and the bottom line of what he was expressing was that he had an interaction with someone who was really angry all the time and angry at him, and he just completely blew this guy's mind by saying, "Thank you for sharing your anger with me, because when you do that, you are sharing your hurt as well."
Mhm.
And maybe that's where one of the things we need to discuss. It's not just fear; it's hurt
Mhm.
that anger is replacing and masking and trying to,
I want to get into that a little bit later because I want to keep talking about where this anger comes from. Because that's sort of like the end of our discussion. We need to get into all that stuff, right? But
Right.
so first off,
You're the boss.
well, I'm trying to figure out how to because I'm thinking about editing this, right, and how I need to edit it instead of switching where we're at and putting it all in reverse. Anyway.
In United States politics, for heaven's sakes, John Kennedy was certainly not perfect,
Mhm.
but words have energy, and words carry that energy to other people, and that energy transformed a lot of people after he said them.
Mhm.
So we have to recognize how to separate the anger and the fear from whoever or whatever we're looking at, and allow it to be transformed instead of staying in that place like the KKK here in the United States.
Mhm. Well, and this reminds me, of course, of Mahatma Gandhi, right? Mohandas K. Gandhi, actually, but
Mhm.
that he looked at it and he was indignant and angry, and it started out, of course, in South Africa, right, where he was being prejudiced against, and that anger in him was like, this is incorrect. They're treating people incorrectly, but I don't want to be a part of that energy. Do you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of that energy directed at him was anger from the other side. And he said, I'm not going to be a part of that energy. Even though I felt the indignation, it is still a flag to me that this is where we need to work. And how can I best do that? And he took it and said, I am not going to perpetuate the anger that is coming at me, nor am I going to give it justification. Because when you do, when you fight back,
Yeah,
you give them more justification to fight with you.
yeah, exactly.
The anger perpetuates itself.
Yeah,
Yes.
the story of Buddha is he was teaching a wealthy man's wife,
Mhm.
and the wealthy man's wife started to change. And the wealthy man did not like the change. And so he came and found Buddha, and he's yelling at Buddha and saying, "How dare you change my wife? She's not taking care of me the way she used to take care of me." And Buddha was there just very quietly and said, "I do not accept your gift of anger.
Mhm.
Accept instead my gift of love."
Mhm.
And if we can ever get to that point around this world right now.
Well, anger's very of an extremely strong and extremely acceptable emotion, and here's where,
But it's also a susceptible emotion
yeah.
because that's where people can really, really manipulate you as
Mhm.
well.
Well, and they do.
And they
And we get manipulated by our insecurities and fears, as we were talking about earlier, um, from just other people generally, not to mention governments and stuff all around the world. So, um, but because anger is so acceptable, right? Remember when we were talking about I was back in school and I was hurting and I was upset, and so what I did was anger. Actually, I got a really good story for this. Um, a buddy of mine who I've just recently reconnected with, uh, he was the smartest person that I knew. He was an amazingly smart guy, like 155 IQ or something like that. He was extremely smart, but he was also kind of nerdy, right? I mean, he and I used to play Dungeons and Dragons and all of those games.
never got sucked in.
Oh, I loved them. They were my favorite. Well, I mean, and I'm a fantasy fan too, so
I
I've
never
always had
got
that
sucked
idea.
into Twilight either.
Yeah. What you were just saying, you were talking earlier about we were talking earlier about how anger can actually hurt you, and literally it literally does. I mean, because when you're
Literally
angry,
does, yes.
it,
It sits in your body and it creates tumors. And I'm not saying that's what created mine, but if you're going to go to where some people go, the New Age community, I have it in my lungs because I didn't communicate well in my life or something. I don't know. There's probably some way that they're gonna say it was something else, but it's even science has shown that the stress created in the body creates disease.
right.
Dis-ease. And dis-ease creates things that they kill you, or at least make your life really uncomfortable.
Well,
Muscle stress and all the toxins that sit in the muscles
yeah.
from anger. You know,
And let's look at anger held on to for long term, because it's not like you can just get over anger, right? Like
well,
not really.
actually, it is. You can't just get over anger.
Well, no. I'm talking about on a long term what most people do level here.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that you can't. Of course you can.
Okay,
Um,
you did say that we can't, so
yeah,
I
no,
correct you.
I know I did. But I'm saying that
Yeah.
long term anger, um, which means that I get angry. See, at a former lover that we split up and we're angry with each other, and that anger, and every time I think about this person, I feel the anger. Right, all of a sudden your muscles are all tensing. You've got the stress. There's more. Your heart rate goes up. All of this stuff that goes along with that. And I think that subconsciously, we've got that tension. It's sort of like it's sort of like keeping your muscles tense for a whole time. Now, first off, anger produces a whole shitload of a whole shitload. Nice. Um, Anger produces a whole bunch of things that go on chemically in the body, and adrenaline being one of them. Now, adrenaline is an extremely painful chemical in the body, which pumps up your heart rate and goes like this and makes your muscles tense and ready for action, right? So adrenaline by itself is really hard on your body. So what happens is we get the dopamine shoots up,
Yep.
so that it makes it less painful, right? So we get a dopamine hit when we get angry. So we get the adrenaline going, we get the dopamine hit that kind of calms us down, and then but the strain on your body is such that, like you said, stress. It's stress on your heart, stress on all, like every part of your body, really, even stress on your brain. With this, so when you have a long-term anger, something that you've never resolved, right? Of course, it's still lingering. Your brain still thinks about it, and those reactions still happen in your body.
Yeah. I did a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat, and it's a silent retreat.
Mhm.
And it was actually wonderful. When you find you don't have to talk and communicate, it really is kind of wonderful. But part of the meditation is you go around your body, and when something arises, a physical feeling or a mental thought, you don't judge it. You just go anicca, and it means essentially that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't judge it. You just recognize that it happened. And the more you scan your body and recognize, you don't know what the feelings are. You don't know what created them, okay? But you know that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go out into the real world and you feel those feelings, something happens and you recognize where that spot is in your body, you go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what I need to recognize and work on.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I can now, someone triggers me and go, oh, that was it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, or and of course it's rarely that person or thing specifically, but
Mm-hmm.
that type of situation sits very specifically in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just described with your trigger with your ex-girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
is something that you are being given the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to do something about it every time you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
That's your mini therapy for the day.
Well, and that comes into that flagging system that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
That anger is an opportunity for you to do something
Yeah.
about it.
Well,
Yes.
absolutely. Anger can be used as a tool. As this is where I need to work. This is what I need to do.
Yeah,
Right?
that thing, if it makes me angry, it probably is something in me.
Well, it's either something you need, or it's you're afraid of something that you're holding a fear there, or there's an old pain that's never been resolved,
Yeah.
or right.
Something it's obviously not working for you. It's something you need to release somehow, some way. It has to be a benefit to you in the noticing of it.
Well, and there's also another progression that I wanted to talk about too.
No.
Yeah. Oh, please. Another progression. So we've established that anger is a cover for fear or an expression of fear. Okay. So we go fear, we go anger, and I want to go up even one further. I want to go rage. Now, rage is an incredibly destructive emotion.
Oh, you've just lost control.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's anger unrestrained, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about this because what I found rage does is it disconnects the brain from the process. And I was married. On my first marriage, I had a daughter who, at 3 or 4 years old, would go into that place of rage. Now, it was it could be extremely destructive, but a lot of the times she would just stand there and rage, right? Like she wouldn't be lashing out, but she would be gone.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
And I'm sure that other parents out there will identify with this. And what I found to bring her back down into it was, or let's go through the progression first. So what happened was she didn't get something that she wanted, right? Right? Like say she wanted some orange juice. I'm being very simplistic.
It doesn't have
right?
to be anything grand.
Yeah.
I know someone just like you're going to describe.
Yeah. So I want orange juice, and I go, no, you can't have orange juice, because I don't want to give you the sugar or whatever. Whatever justification I had for not giving her the orange juice, it's like, no, you can't have orange juice. And then she would, she would start yelling and screaming and whining, and like she would go into that place. Yeah, but that manipulation that said, I'm going to get it, right?
Yeah.
But it got to a point where it just went over an edge. It's sort of like she's dove off this cliff, and she was no longer the little girl that I knew. She was just totally consumed and controlled by the rage, the anger, right? And so she would go off this cliff, and I recognized it. I understood that she was no longer there. Like there was no cognizant part of her that was doing this. And that rage, of course, sometimes would lash out, and sometimes it would just be screaming. like at the top of her lungs. She's totally irrational. She's totally not there. And I knew how to bring her down, which was I very, very rarely ever yelled loudly or even got angry. I had to be able to tap into my own anger and yell, the whole male, yell. And that's extreme yelling of I'm the man and you should listen to me kind of thing. Well, whatever that is. Anyway, so it's like but with anger, what it did is it reconnected her brain to something that was so abnormal and unusual that she had to come back.
Didn't work with the person I know.
No? Okay.
I had to just let it happen.
Oh,
and when it was finished, this person, at first I didn't believe it, but I saw it enough times that this person didn't even know it had happened after a certain point.
Right. Well,
when you say went over the cliff, that's exactly what happened. Had no idea.
I knew somebody that was exactly the same too. It was now he was extraordinary as a child. He would, like, you would deny him a glass of apple juice, and it would be 8 hours of screaming. Would not stop.
It wasn't 8 hours, but you could count on at least an hour most of the time, if not more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
at the top of.
Yeah, atop of their lungs. And
so may I ask, Drew, what is your point about rage then?
So when I'm talking about rage, I'm talking about this is anger without any thought. I think that it's rage is anger that has gone to the point where you are no longer absolutely rational. There's no rationale to it at all.
That might be going all the way back down to reptilian.
Yeah, I think that when we get to that point, it's just we're off the charts. I hate to say this, but it's sort of like we stop becoming cognizantly human, and we go to just becoming something else.
Maybe I can say it a different way. Sure. We go away from being cognizantly a multi-level being, mm-hmm. and back into being purely human. Mm-hmm. We lose contact with our rationale. We lose contact with our spiritual aspect. We go back into simply being, this is what we want and this is how we get it. We are purely human with no other thought.
Maybe. This is a tough one because I understand the feeling of it. I've certainly been enraged in my life.
I can tell you 2 examples of when I was fully enraged, and it wasn't a pretty sight because I was yelling at the top of my voice in the screechiest screech you could ever do, and what I was saying to the other person was absolutely and intentionally calculated to make them feel as bad as I could make them feel. Mm-hmm. And I only remember doing that 2 times in my life, but I have absolutely done that. Yeah. So I understand on some level, not fully the over the cliff level, but I understand that level. And it was because that person made not just me, but a broader swath of the population that I loved, diminished them. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what would make the people we are speaking of do it, but except to say that somehow I feel they felt diminished, mm-hmm. by not getting what they want. Somehow they identified with that outside thing so completely that not getting it was traumatic to them.
Yeah. Well, and my main point for bringing up rage is that anger is a really excessive anger is a real big doorway into rage, where we get to the point that we become, instead of human beings, more human doings, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Right, and that then you're just now all you can do is express the amount of adrenaline, the chemicals that are going on. That's it.
Yeah, your pure reaction. You're not thought, not rational thought most of the time.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any rational thought to past that, other than to either to destroy, like utterly.
Yeah. Like road rage.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And again, we get into that. I've never had road rage. I've had like road anger, just because. And of course, anger is I'm not getting what I want because you're too slow in front of me, right? So you get into that, but I've never gone over the edge, right? But then again, I don't even know what really does it. I know that part of it's chemical makeup.
Yeah, I think it's just the literally the straw that broke the camel's back a lot of the time. When my daughter, when we lived in Korea, my daughter, in fact, the last taxi ride she took coming home from school before we moved back to the States, or moved her back to the States, she was in the back seat. Now, they don't have seatbelts, and they didn't at the time in the back seat of taxis. They were all tucked in or even taken out. And for some reason, it was the last straw. Someone cut this taxi off when they were coming into a choke point from 2 down to 1 lane. And this guy wouldn't let him in, and he just started, it just snapped.
Yeah.
And, and he's bumping this guy off the road, and my daughter is in the back seat going, GD, where's the seatbelt when you need it? Right. And all she could do is, when he finally stopped, just throw some money at him and get out, because who knows when it's really going to end. But we were convinced it was just in Seoul's traffic. It was just the last straw.
Wow. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about too was the different levels of anger, right? So it's
I'm a
one
little
thing.
bit pissed at you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one level,
Right. Well, I mean, and then it's how we utilize it. And the thing is what I found with most people when I talk to them, and I said, well, why are you angry? I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated. And then, of course, that whole idea, but now I'm angry because you called me angry, right? It's like,
the what they call the resting bitch face. When I was young, well, why are you mad? Well, I'm not mad. This is no expression. But then I was mad. Yeah.
And now I'm mad because you think I'm mad.
I'm mad. Yeah.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Yeah. So like, I'm not mad. I'm frustrated. That one comes up a lot. And I said, yeah, but frustrated is anger.
It's a level of it. Yeah.
It's a level of it, right? Like, I mean, it's
progression into full blown.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, to me, because I'm an analytical guy, I just go, hey, it's all anger. It's not like anger. I mean, yeah, there's degrees, right? So we mark these degrees as frustration, pissed, right? All the way up to, so let's look that middle line. So let's look at it like this, right? So we go frustrated. I'm not really getting what I want, but I'm more tolerant, I guess, would be tolerant anger. I'd call frustration. I call it anger light, actually.
I'm open to constructive criticism a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
More.
Right. And then we've got that section of, we go up to the halfway point. Well, now we're doppling into real anger. And then we go back past the 3/4 point, and then we're getting into the rage area, right? So when we're talking about anger, and we're talking about the reasons that we are angry, afraid, don't touch me because I'm hurting, or I want to get what I want, right? So I'm using it as a manipulation. So frustration, what's frustration? That's a signal to us, obviously. There's something that's happening.
Yeah. So would you say that all of it is, whatever level of anger we have, is our expressing somehow something very simple, that we just don't feel as loved as we would like to feel right now?
Well, I think that when it comes right down to it, our fear is that we're not going to be accepted or acceptable,
and that's we're not feeling loved.
right? Exactly. It is absolutely that. And remember that we're taught that being loved, I mean, all we have to do is take a look at it from a mom standpoint. Take a look at how we treated our children, right? So, be it boy or girl, from the age of 0 to about 2 to 3 to 5, about 5 years old. I think 4 or 5 would be where our switching point is. Take a look at how we treated these children up until that point. Oh, you got a boo-boo. Oh, come here. That's okay. You know, or you all of a sudden it's like, I rode my bike for the first time by myself. Oh, you're amazing. Right. And then about 5 years old, we transition into suck it up.
Into expectations, rather.
Right. That these huge expectations that we have in the kids. Up until that point, we were taught that it's okay to feel loved. And then we're pushed away.
Well, I was a little bit older when I have a very personal example of when that shift happened with my father and I. I started to become a woman at 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The first little things, and because of won't go into all of it, but that was when my father and mother decided that my father had to stay as far away as possible from inappropriate touching of his daughter. So he stopped hugging me. Mm-hmm. And I remember vividly the day it happened. And that's the kind of shift that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Why isn't my father hugging me anymore?
Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, what's wrong with me now?
Yeah, what's wrong with me now?
Right. Yeah. And here's where our ability to communicate comes into play, right? And especially with children, to be able to explain things. Like, I mean, if he explained them to you, but he didn't even know himself, really. I wouldn't.
Well, he did on some level, but he knew what he was doing. But I'm 68 years old. Back when I was 9 years old, people weren't talking about these things, and men sure weren't really talking about these things. No. For all of the things that I think are going wrong in our world, there are so many things going right in our world right now with regards to the allowing of full communication. Mm-hmm. If someone is willing to take the plunge into the vulnerability of doing it. And I know you've been listening to Brene Brown recently. That vulnerability is a privilege to reveal to someone. Mm-hmm. But we're not willing to even give anyone that privilege right now because we're so fearful. Mm-hmm. It goes into the anger,
yeah.
And it's all counterproductive to what we really desire.
Right. Well, and I think you're right. I think that one of our main reasons that we're so angry and fearful is because at a certain age, it stopped being acceptable to be loved, and it was weak to be loved, to show that you love.
But it is acceptable to be angry and push the other person away before they can hurt you.
Right.
That's okay.
And we're living in a world right now of that division, and the more that we push each other away, the angrier we get. The angrier we get, the more we push each other away.
And we're going to end up blowing up the whole place and having to start over again.
It's certainly possible. But, I mean, which is why it's so important to understand
these emotions
with a progression of this, right? So important to be able to tell people. I said, listen, if you're angry, yes, it's because you're not getting something that you want. What is it that you want? We really want connection. We really want to be acceptable and accepted. And we really don't feel that because from our earliest, I mean, and sometimes it's from our earliest childhood, we felt rejected. I mean, imagine if you were an orphan raised in an orphanage or any of those things that I didn't get. But I mean, my dad left when I was very, very young, so I didn't really have a father figure. I had a mom that had to be responsible for both my sister and I completely, who wasn't really equipped for it. And it's, you know, when we run into those things, it's very easy to understand. You know, like I was angry because my mom didn't, or I was angry because my dad didn't. But the truth is, I'm angry because I feel like I was rejected and I wasn't acceptable.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, well, now that you're an adult, you can change your mind, but we're not given any tools to do so. In school, we're given, you know, we're not even shown how to balance a checkbook, much less how to balance ourselves.
Well, and to be able to talk to, and to be able to have somebody to talk to that we don't feel judged by.
To be able to recognize, yes,
Right?
yeah, to be able to recognize what's going on as something more than what is apparently so.
Well, and I mean, I don't think that, you know, on some levels we've gotten to the point where we've come together as a society and we've created all of these wonderful things. I take a look at the camera that I'm looking into. I take a look at the microphone setup that I have here. I take a look at the computers, and I take a look at all of the stuff that we've been able to achieve because we've come together as a community and shared skills, right? And being able to utilize those people that can invent and do all of those things. And the coming together of all of that stuff, right? And I look at all of these incredible marvels that we have, and it was done by cooperation and understanding. Yeah. Now we've gotten so far away from that we're using social media to distance ourselves.
Yeah, it's because we're into the individualism thing.
Right.
We have, even in our economy, we have all the mechanisms in place to have, and this is what will drive some people crazy, but to have a global economy that is locally responsive,
right,
if you will.
Yeah.
We're just not using the facilities properly. We're not using it with the same intent.
And I agree. And part of it is that anger is more acceptable than love.
Yeah.
Fear is the least acceptable thing in the world. So we cover it up. And again, this is anger's role, is if I'm angry because it's acceptable, then I'm not weak, because fear and love.
All of these things you're describing are pushaways.
Yeah.
Away the thing that we wish to draw unto ourselves.
Well, and I mean,
away. It is a literal energy. It's a physical thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's some of the key. Some of the key is understanding the words that we need to understand. Anger being one of them. Yes, anger is all of the things that we've been talking about. It can be used for good, absolutely. There's no question. But we go into what we were talking about righteous anger and finding out what righteous anger really is, as opposed to what it shouldn't be.
Yeah, how to use it as the tool that it can be.
Exactly.
To bastardizing it.
And anger is a very, very good tool when you can consciously see it and go, wait a minute. You don't have to go, like, I mean, I go to the place of, what am I afraid of, right? I automatically go there. But you can go, what am I angry at? Why am I angry at that? Knowing full well that anger, even though it's more socially acceptable, even though it is what we were taught since we were kids to do, I mean, even in women and men, that difference, right? Is women, it's more acceptable for women, even though, and listen to this fully before you respond, even though in what I see is that women can cry, they're allowed, right? But that's usually before they get angry. Whereas in men, it's the other way around.
You know, and that's not necessarily true, because I know when I get angry,
mm-hmm.
I cry mm-hmm. involuntarily.
Mm-hmm.
And it pisses me off, because in the face of the other person, I know it makes me look weak.
Exactly.
So it's not just a male thing.
Yeah. But it's more acceptable in women than it is in men.
Not really.
I agree.
Because when that woman looks weak, in a business setting or whatever,
Yeah.
then she gets completely dismissed.
I know. I again, when I'm saying this,
Well, I know
it's
what you're saying.
yeah, it's all I see is it's more acceptable, and especially if you're a woman not in a professional.
But bottom line, anger is counterproductive to anything anyone wants to do.
Exactly. It really is a destructive emotion. I think that
and it really does. If the other person, you have really on some level destroyed your credibility, even though you have increased your triumph in some ways, your the bully aspect, the manipulation aspect of it, you have increased that definitely, but you have completely destroyed your credibility with a lot of people.
Well, and like I said, we can utilize anger as a flag system that can help build.
Yeah.
Right? It's the only way that I can think that anger can help build us as a society, of saying, I'm angry. Wait a minute. Why am I angry? The question.
Yeah, it's a natural emotion, but it's not a productive one.
No, it's definitely a natural emotion.
It can be used as a tool to change.
I agree.